We've got a real mixed bag of movies in today's video. One of the movies on today's list isn't even classified as a horror movie, and it might be the scariest one. Welcome back to part 4 of movies that actually scare me. After the comments in part 3, I had a big cry and a big sook that all the movies on that list didn't actually scare me.
Dude, you had one job.
I'm sorry that I'm not a big baby like all of you guys. I tried my very best this time to find some movies that all genuinely made me scared. As always, leave comments below of movies that actually scared you and they may feature in a future video. I personally think that would be pretty cool. The first movie on today's list was actually recommended to me by this guy. So, Alexia, thank you very much, my friend. And I actually had never even heard of this movie before, so it ended up being quite a good little hidden gem horror film. First movie is A Dark Song. A determined young woman, Sophia, and a damaged occultist risk their lives and souls to perform a dangerous ritual that will grant them whatever they want. A Dark Song definitely falls into the category of a slow burn. I'm sorry. It takes 2 acts before any sort of traditional horror elements really kick in. It does definitely have a very spooky vibe throughout. A lot of the horror in the first 2 acts comes from how intense some of these steps in the ritual are, and honestly how like horrible Joseph is. The guy definitely never falls into like that lovable asshole protagonist character. He is like through and through just like a really awful person. And the way he treats Sophia throughout is completely terrible and definitely gets to the point where it's like really hard to watch in moments, especially when you know like how desperate she is to do this ritual. But lucky for anyone who does watch this, I know I just mentioned how like tough the first 2 acts can be in terms of like how intense and difficult some of the subject matter may be. It does make up for it in some ways. It may not be super scary, but it is genuinely like quite an interesting film. And the ritual itself is really interesting. And yes, Joseph is a real piece of shit. And Sophia is also like a bit of an annoying character in moments. She doesn't like give all of the information she really should to make this go as well as it should. That being said, like the characters and the acting themselves are 2 really interesting people to watch on screen. And it does make for a really interesting and well-made horror flick. Now, for the 3rd act, this movie is really scary. I think because Act 1 and 2 were more of a slow burn, when the scarier elements kick in, and trust me, like they really kick in, like it sort of comes out of nowhere how hard these moments hit. I think it's just more effective because you sort of are not expecting it anymore because the first 2 acts haven't suggested anything like what happens in the 3rd act will happen. You get some really good jump scares, and the sound design honestly does some really great work. It does like loud noises and loud talking. I want to be vague here because I don't want to spoil anything. It does those moments really well, and it's really effective horror. I really like the use of dark corners and lighting tricks to obscure objects or people or things or figures that you might think are people but aren't. There's moments in here that are really unsettling, and it is a bit of like, is that a fucking person sitting there? And I think for a movie that definitely wouldn't have had like a massive budget, I think they do a lot with what they did have. There are spirits or ghosts or demons, something in that vein in this movie as well, that do show up in the 3rd act, and the design of them, they are genuinely really freaky looking as well. We learn throughout the movie that Sophia's son was actually murdered, hence why she's so determined to do this ritual, so she can possibly like speak to him again. There's a particular scene in this movie where I'm guessing it's some sort of demon is on the other side of a door from Sophia, and it imitates Sophia's son's voice. Begins to plead with her to let him out of the room, crying, sobbing, begging for his mother to help him. Sophia knows this isn't her son, and it is truly like heartbreaking to see her reaction to this, and you can see so much she wants to open this door and embrace her son, but she knows ultimately that would end very poorly for her. It ramps up in intensity when her son begins to be mauled and torn apart by some sort of dog on the other side of the door as well. This does make sense within the context of the film. Trust me, it does. But the fact that this scene is so emotional and also so scary, some of the noises and voices and the loudness of the scene really got to me. It made me feel quite unsettled. Just adds to why I thought it was a really good horror movie, because it has a really sad emotional core, and Sophia is driven by grief, and it's something that like anyone could sympathize with ultimately. Dark Song isn't constantly trying to scare you. It earns every scare because you've spent so much time invested in Sophia and her journey to possibly communicate with her son. It makes the last 20 minutes of this movie truly terrifying and hard to watch. So Dark Song is scary. Next movie. I mentioned at the start of today's video that one of the movies in this list isn't actually even classified as a horror film. But when I tell you 1993's Fire in the Sky features one of the most terrifying scenes I've ever seen, I mean it. An Arizona logger mysteriously disappears for 5 days in what is an alleged alien abduction in 1975. His co-workers endure ridicule and contempt from his town as they are wrongly accused of his murder. I will preface this section with this is based on true events, or at least the statements of the workers who claim to have witnessed Travis's abduction. I'm not going to talk about if I think this is true or not true, or yeah, I'm not getting into that. I just want to talk about spooky movies, so don't hate me if I don't have like a real opinion on it, because honestly, I don't know. Is there aliens? Probably. Did they take Travis? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Possibly. For 90% of Fire in the Sky, it is absolutely not a horror movie. Like, not even slightly scary. It is definitely more of a drama or a mystery thriller. And it is a really good one at that. I genuinely really enjoyed this movie. Robert Patrick from Terminator 2 is in the lead role. I've never actually seen him outside of a villain role in a movie, so it was really cool to see him be like a normal human, I guess, in this movie. Yeah, he's really damn good in this movie. His performance is just like really earnest, and you just feel like he's just like a normal, nice dude. Even the abduction scene of Travis is pretty tame. Like it's nothing you wouldn't have seen in another sci-fi movie from this era. Like it's really, you know, normal sort of thing. Lights in the sky, guy getting tossed around a little bit. Yeah, nothing crazy. But as the town and law enforcement's pressure increases on the logging crew to, you know, tell them where Travis is, and the days go by and by where Travis just doesn't turn up at all, and there's little to no evidence of what's happened to this guy. They all stick to their story that, you know, Travis was abducted by an alien spacecraft or a flying saucer. Then one day out of the blue, Mike receives a phone call from someone who he believes is Travis. The guys race to find him. He's in the middle of nowhere at like a small rest stop. It's raining. He's completely naked, and he looks like he has been through absolute hell, and looks like he's seen some things that no human was ever supposed to witness. He kind of looks like that shell-shocked Vietnam vet meme. Very similar to that. And when Fire in the Sky finally shows you what Travis saw and went through, it is one of the most horrific alien abduction scenes I've ever seen. It probably is the most horrific alien abduction scene. And it is, the only way I can describe it is skin crawling. Like it's really full on. It's all so invasive and violating. And the fact that you can tell like the aliens in this aren't doing this because they're malicious or evil. They're just like doing an experiment or some sort of research. Just makes it even more scary because there's nothing behind it other than interest. The scene is really grimy and gross, with the aliens stuffing like these big clumps of like brown sludge into Travis's mouth, and then hooking him up to a bunch of machines and putting clamps on him and tubes into him, and they put them everywhere. And it's just a really tough watch of a scene. It just feels like you're watching something you shouldn't be. Like this is like a really private and vulnerable moment for Travis. I can just imagine this is one of those scenes that kids of this era walked past their parents watching this movie in the middle of the night, and they were just instantly fucking traumatized by this moment, because yeah, it's pretty full on. We'll never truly know if this is a true story or not a true story, and what actually happened in those mountains or to Travis. But what I do know is Fire in the Sky is absolutely terrifying. It is worth, if you're looking for something scary, to sit through more of a mystery or a drama for this particular scene. It's horrific. Next movie. When the comment section in the last video just wasn't really providing much in the way of scary movies, and Google just wasn't doing its thing, I had to turn to the biggest scaredy cat I know. My best guy, my top dog, my Pookie Bear. Yes, my girlfriend, who quite literally has been scared by her own shadow before. I have sneezed before and it has made her jump. So when she suggested last year that we watch one of her top scary movies, I wasn't expecting much in the way of fright for myself, because you know, I'm not a big scared baby. Which made it even worse when The Taking of Deborah Logan ended up being one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen. An elderly woman battling Alzheimer's disease agrees to let a film crew document her struggle, but what they discover is something far more sinister. Similar to A Dark Song, this movie does have a really emotional core to it, with the theme of Alzheimer's hitting rather close to home for myself. I had a family member suffer from this fucking terrible disease a few years ago. This movie at times for myself was genuinely a pretty tough watch, even outside of the serial killer snake monster demon man stuff. Now, The Taking of Deborah Logan isn't one of the most innovative documentary found footage style horror movies I've ever seen, but what it is propped up by is an absolutely stellar performance, and terrifying performance at that, by Jill Larson as Deborah Logan. My lord, is she scary. She has this certain look of anger and disdain when she looks at people throughout this movie and even at the camera. It feels a bit like when you're looking around in public, you know, checking for exits, the fastest way to escape in case of emergency, and who's going to be the biggest physical threat in the room if something does pop off. I'm looking at you, Grandma. But then you catch someone staring at you, and unlike a normal human being when they are caught staring, they just keep staring at you, and you do that little like awkward look away, and then you look back and they're still looking at you, and then that just activates your social anxiety, and you're like, what the fuck, what's on my face, what's wrong with me, what's going on? Yeah, that's how Deborah Logan makes me feel when she looks down the barrel of the fucking camera. But also, at the same time, she looks like she kind of wants to bite your face, which is way worse. As Deborah's behavior worsens around the film crew and escalates to a more supernatural level, one of the doco crew decides to depart the scene because he just does a, you know what, I'm good, I don't need to be here. And honestly, I can't blame him. I will say he does leave in the most disrespectful way ever.
Fuck.
No.
Both of you.
Get. See you later, buddy.
Like, can you imagine getting dumped or something and you just hear this?
Later, buddy.
That would be fucking soul destroying. Being one of the saddest horror movies I've seen in a little while, it was a bit of a shame that this movie did rely on jump scares a bit, even though it had some genuinely really horrifying moments spread throughout. I just feel like it didn't need to throw in the jump scares because, as I mentioned, the performance alone and just certain scenes in this movie are really skin crawling. And it does definitely have one of the most horrific final scenes in a movie ever. Like, my God, who thought of that? Like, take them to the vet and put them down, because you shouldn't be able to think of stuff like that. So yeah, you could say Taking of Deborah Logan was pretty freaking scary, my dudes. So thank you very much for watching part 4 of movies that are actually scary. As always, leave comments below with movies that actually scared you. They may feature in a future video. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like. I love you very much. Bye bye.